Welcome to the channel Metaphysics and Development with Professor Chiedozie Okoro, a professor of philosophy and specialist in metaphysics and African philosophy.
So, Prof, welcome to the channel. I'm representing the team, the disciples of Professor Chiedozie Okoro. So, Prof, from one of your writings, The Soul of African Culture, we read this. We want to read it so that it throw more light and then clarify in a way language we can understand better as those are still coming up. So, it said every culture has its soul. The soul of African culture is African spirituality, which forms the basis for African mode of reality and being, which are the topics for metaphysics. African mode of knowledge and truth, which are the topics for epistemology. African way of system building, structuring and destructuring, which form the topic for logic. An African mode of valuation and value system, which form the basis for African morals, ethics, and aesthetics. This soul of African culture, which is labeled as African spirituality, is simply called complementarity. This forms the basis for African mode of science, politics, economics, sociology, psychology, military science, etc. So our task as contemporary Africans is to keep renewing and improving this reasoning process of our forebears. So Paul, this encapsulates everything about African knowledge system, application, way of life, politics, and worldview.
Sure.
So we bring this to the understanding of the common person, of the layman.
Well, this particular topic, I derive it from the last conference I attended on African studies that I attended in Germany, which was just some 2 weeks ago. Now, I discover that Africans discuss issues in African studies and African studies itself from Western paradigms of the West. All right, they discuss that from the paradigms of the West. And the paradigms of the West that I mean is that they discuss it as if Africans don't have a perspective. We want to discuss the issue of gender. They discuss gender, everything about gender from monistic, reductionist perspectives that create absolutism. For instance, questions like, what do men want? What do women want? And you now begin to discuss issues like Omugo, the man and the woman who should go. And is it the man alone? Is it the woman alone? Is it the both of them? And then I look at what is happening in the world. It's only African families that end up in the Western world and get scattered. Asian families, Indians, Lebanese, Koreans, Chinese, they move abroad, anywhere in Europe, Canada, America. They live in unity. Why? The Asians are living within the soul of their culture. Africans are living within the peripheries of their culture. Africans have thrown away the soul of their culture and have replaced the soul of their culture with Christianity and Islam. And Christianity and Islam cannot be unity. What it will do is to tilt relationship either more towards the woman or more towards the man. And that is not what the African looks at. Because if you look at the foundation of Western culture, which you can locate in Christianity, and the foundation of Arabic culture, which you can locate in Islam, you do not see a relationship between hell and heaven. It's usually hell or heaven.
Yes.
It's a polarity already. You don't see relationship between good and evil. It is either good or evil, which is a polarity. All right. So in that same way, they carry that mentality between either man or woman. Which one came first? Is it man that came first? Is it woman that came first? In the African ontology, cosmology, that does not arise. The foundation of African culture is what I call the principle of the irreducible two. The irreducible to. That is to say, you cannot reduce reality as we see it and experience it beyond two. These two must always be male and female. That is why if you come to the African divination, the Alpha chaplet, Alpha Ogiri, which Yorubas call Okpele, you see the two hanging sides of the chaplet, one representing male, the other representing female. The male is not said to be positive, while the female is said to be negative. No. The male represents the rising part of the sun, while the female represents the setting side of the sun. So it's a question of activity and passivity. Now, the classifying of male and female is not totally based on physique of sex or gender. It's based on the ontology of what a woman is supposed to be, on the ontology of what a man is supposed to be. Ontology of what a man is supposed to be the leader of the house, one who goes out to forage, one who goes out to fight, one who brings wealth home. The woman is the manager and keeper of the wealth. That is why she's sunset. And that is why, again, because we now see from the right to the left. And that is why you take your bride from the right, you collect her from the right, and you keep her by the left, because the left is where the heart is. So sunset is where we call Ako, which the Yorubas call Aje. And so that's why for us, in every typical African culture, the woman represents wealth. Because where the sun sets is where the sun has made all the journey and decides to rest.
Everything will come
and everything come and settle there. So you see that reality playing. And so we don't ask the question, which one came first, male or female, female or male. We said as we burst into the world, what we saw is that as we saw chicken, we saw egg. As we saw egg, we saw chicken. So for us, chicken and egg are equiprimordial. They are complementary. You cannot think of one without the other. It's a logic, what you call a logic of equivalence.
I think that whether chicken came from egg or egg came from chicken, you don't need to prove
it. You see, for us is that what we see, remember, it's irreducible too. You cannot reduce chicken to egg, and you cannot reduce egg to chicken. What we see is that by the principle of equivalence, which you deal in the rules of replacement. Everything in the rules of replacement is equivalence. When we came to the world, we saw that hens lay egg, and eggs develop to become fowls. So there's a relationship between egg and fowl, or anything that lays egg. So generally, there's a relationship between egg and bean. All right, which is why, whether among the Igbo, Yoruba, or any typical African culture, if you eat one egg, they say, especially if the egg is boiled, they say, only you consume a whole chicken. The Yorubas will also say, why is it that thinking is common? If you call a Benin person too, they will have the same thing. You call an Idoma person, you call the Gala person, they have the same concept. Because for us, the egg represents a whole being. And so you cannot separate, we don't separate, rather we bring together. Now, this complementarity principle is saying it's rested on the principle of duality. There's a difference between duality and dualism. Dualism is a principle of two things relating. But of two things relating, dualism insists that one is primary before the other. That one is primary and the other is secondary. Meaning if one is primary and the other is secondary, then you can reduce reality to that primary one.
And that's like wrong conception of being.
You cannot say it's wrong conception of being. It is the typical Caucasian, Western, Semitic conception. So that's why you'll find that it leads to polarity of this or that, not this and that. All right? It leads to a polarity of this or that, not this and that. Okay. And once it creates a polarity, there's antagonism. Because what you are saying is that woman is complete on his own. Man is complete on his own. So which one should be primary? Then there's a question of two captains, two drivers of the boat. Which one should be captain? The captain and the rear, which one is more important? So it's the captain or the rear. You get it? Heaven or hell. So once there's a polarity, there's antagonism. Once there's an antagonism, there will be no agreement between the two. But duality says there are two things. These two things are opposite. They are not the same. They are opposite. Man is not woman. Woman is not man. Egg is not chicken. Chicken is not egg. But they are both incomplete. Chicken cannot be complete without egg. Egg cannot be complete without chicken. So because this complements it, so it's equivalence. So that is why it is chicken and egg, not chicken or egg. Man and woman, not man or woman. Heaven and hell. Because heaven and hell make reality. Is in this earth that it makes reality. When you are dead, you don't know about heaven and hell or hell. So it's heaven and hell. And that's why for the African, there is no eternal hell. Even heaven is not where we go and sleep forever. You will be an ancestor in heaven, you still be intervening in the goodness of the people here on earth. And that is why for us, you don't die and wait for the last day. Judgment takes place as you die. It's a cyclical word, not a linear word. So that is why. So it is this duality, the duality principle that says two things that are opposite are incomplete. Because they are incomplete, they must necessarily be interdependent. So that interdependency, interconnectedness, integration is what we call complementarity. That complementarity is the soul of the being of African culture. Africans have missed it today. We will not show you how that missing that soul is creating dichotomy, discrepancies, confusion among the Africans.